What better way to listen to the Stay Woke podcast than listen to it wearing a Stay Woke or Wokest t-shirt from royaltshop.bigcartel.com. My personal favorite is the red and white one. So head over to royaltshop.bigcartel.com to get one today. Again, that's royaltshop.bigcartel.com.
You're now tuned into the hottest podcast in the world, the Stay Woke podcast. Right here on TheSonicBreakdown.com.
Man, it's time to wake up. Time to wake up. Get this cake up. Get this cake up. Only thing I care about is switching.
Welcome back to another Stay Woke podcast. This is D-Ray Brinson, and you know the Stay Woke podcast is presented by TheSonicBreakdown.com. If you haven't gone over and checked out our latest article or review, head over there now to TheSonicBreakdown.com and check out one of our articles from one of our great writers such as Jason Terrell, Jennifer Alafaro, or Delmar Napieu. But let's get right into what today's podcast is going to be about. And today's going to be another Let's Talk About It segment. And as you know, with all of our Let's Talk About It segments, we interview somebody that is interesting and creative. And today's creative and interesting person is going to be Alonge Hawes. Alonge Hawes is the writer, creator, producer, and actor, a man of many skills and talents of Blue Collar Hustle. And Blue Collar Hustle is a series that you can watch on YouTube. We're going to get into that a little bit more as we go through this podcast. But before we get into that, let's get to know Alonge a little bit better. For those who do know Alonge, he's from his father's from Chicago and his mother is from Grand Rapids, Michigan. He also has an older brother who writes and a younger brother who raps as well. So for those who have seen Blue Collar Hustle, you would know that all of that seems like all of the brothers have a creative tendency. And as we were talking off air, how is that creative tendency or creativeness fostered in your family?
Yeah, it was definitely fostered by having, two parents in the household who were creatives in and of themselves. My father was a great writer and orator himself. And, the entertainment piece comes really from my mother, who was a singer and actress. My grandmother was also a gospel singer, pastor, and actress. And my aunt is actually an actress here in Atlanta. She's actually on a show called Greenleaf on the OWN network right now. So she's been acting for upwards of 30 years, but in a bunch of movies, a bunch of TV shows. So just coming up with all of that really helped foster me and my siblings' creative, ambition. Of course, I have an older brother who writes. He lives in California. My younger brother raps here in Atlanta. My sister, Shawnee, who actually co-stars with me in the show and is also a producer in the show, sings and acts as well. So, all of that started in the initial household.
And I just want to take a quick side note and say I want to first thank Shani for allowing this interview to happen. She's the one that connected me to you, and I'm very happy that she did, because otherwise I might have missed out on a great series. So shout out to Shani.
Yeah, shout out to Shani. Also, she's doing her job as a producer. She's definitely. Yeah, he's definitely hooking me up with some great interviews and things of that nature. So definitely shout out to Shawnee. More than an actress, she's just one of the unsung heroes behind the scenes of the show as well.
Having all that creative energy in a house, what was it like growing up? With all that creative energy from your parents, from your grandparents, and then that gets translated down and passed down to you.
There was never a dull moment. I'll say that. Growing up, I was actually the oldest growing up, as I didn't grow up with my older brother. So It was really, I was the oldest, and then Shawnee came right after me, and I have a sister and a younger brother. So, growing up and we were all right after one another. So, we grew up a similar age. So just having them in the household with me and us doing things like, we would like write our own plays and put on plays and shows for our parents. There was always something that one of us did that one of us excelled at. So for me, it was writing. My sister, she was a great drawer. So I would write the stories, and then she would illustrate it for me. And then maybe Shawnee would sing something, and then my little brother would come. We'd put him and have a show with him, and he'd act with us and things like that. So it was never a dull moment in the Hawes household growing up. It was a lot of fun, a lot of great memories, I'll say.
And were you born in Atlanta, or?
I was actually born in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I was raised in Lansing, Michigan until I was about 14. Okay. So when I was 14 years old is when we moved out to Atlanta. Okay. Really, Stone Mountain, Georgia. Okay.
The home of Childish Gambino, Donald Glover.
Yes, that's right. Yep, the home of Childish Gambino. That's correct. Yep, Donald Glover. Shout out to Donald Glover.
Yeah, creative man. Woo.
Yeah, genius.
Yeah. Coming up in that creative environment, did you ever feel that, was it always felt that your creative energy was accepted? Because sometimes having all that creative energy, you can feel, I guess, I wouldn't say ashamed, but more of, put away because everybody's trying to showcase their talent. So there might not have been enough room for you or one of your siblings. Was that something that you ever faced with all that creative energy in the house?
No, not really. Actually, it was nurtured from a very young age, particularly from my mother. It was nurtured in all of us, and it wasn't like there wasn't enough room. It was like, again, we all excelled at something different at different times. So it was basically like when it was my turn to shine, it was my turn. When it was Shawnee's turn, it was her turn. When it was my sister, my brother's turn, it was their turn. We all were very supportive of one another, and we were all very inclusive with one another. If anything, it was pushed to the point where I actually took a step back from my creative inhibitions for a little while, just so I could live life a little bit. I actually made the decision at a young age. I decided I was doing a lot of things. By the time I was like 11, I was in various talent shows. I was actually like lip syncing to Michael Jackson and doing like a Michael Jackson routine. And I won a lot of talent shows in Lansing, Michigan. And my mother put me and my sister in an acting class, and we were in that. And I was in a couple of local commercials and things. So it was like a thing where it was kind of like, oh, you're primed to do this. And then I kind of took a step back, made the conscious decision when I was like 13, like, nah, I kind of want to live life, go to school, play basketball, do things that other kids do, and just find out who I really am before I decided that I was going to set on this path.
Understandable. And when did you realize that you were a creator?
I realized I was a creator around that age, around 11, 12 years old, when everything that I was interested in had something to do with creativity or me creating something or me acting out or performing. I was really, really talented. I was really good at it, but I also wanted to put the work in. If I was going to be a Michael Jackson impersonator, I was going to be the greatest Michael Jackson impersonator of all time. Or if I was going to write something, it was going to be the best that it actually could be. I would actually go back and do research. I would look at my father's dictionaries and thesauruses to make sure that what I was writing, I wasn't using the same words all the time. I didn't want to be repetitious even as a young kid. Or if I was writing a poem or something like that, I always wanted to set myself to a higher standard or a higher goal. I actually remember when I was a kid, what I would do is, if I liked a girl, what I would do is I would go back and listen to my dad's old records that nobody else would ever know, listen to. So what I would do is I would take maybe like the first paragraph would be like lyrics from these old songs, and then the rest of it would be all me. So just in case if I was bad, you had that first paragraph that you could be like, okay, this is good. So that's what I would do. So, ever since then, I had that drive in me to do greatness, to do something great.
That's awesome. Using legends' words to help spark your creativity. That's a smart way to begin. Like you said, at least they'll enjoy at least part of it.
Right. And then what happened was if I would write the poem and give it to a girl, she'd come back up to me and she's like, yo, this is good. I really love the second part. And the second part was all me. So I was like, okay, I got this. Okay, I'm good. Okay.
Yeah, so it was a confidence booster at the same time. It's like, okay.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
That's awesome. And one of the things that I noticed doing all these Let's Talk About It segments with people that are very creative is a sense of confidence without being overly confident. And how did you balance that, especially young? Because I feel like it's harder for young kids, especially young children that are talented and understand their talent, to make that balance. Did you have any issues with that?
Well, no, because my father always instilled in me a sense of discipline, and my father always would tell me, and he said, it's just something he had to learn growing up in Chicago. As bad as you are, there's always somebody after the back.
That's right.
And so that was always something that kept me. And then, growing up older, as I listened to hip hop, my favorite artist is Nas. And I remember Nas had an interview where he said, self-praise is no praise.
Yeah.
So just keeping those things within me, just like, we just talked about Donald Glover, as good as you think you are, there's always somebody out there that can show you a thing or two. So I always try to keep that in me, not try to be confident, but not cocky.
And do you think a part of your father's dealings with working with troubled youth, do you think that also helped in adding perspective?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. So my father, he actually worked with troubled youth. It was a place called Camp Highfields. So what he did was he worked as a correctional officer in the prison system. Okay. And I remember being a little kid, he would actually go up and he would work at the prison system for like 3 or 4 days, and then he'd come back really late and be with us for 3 or 4 days, and he was always going back and forth. And, as the family grew bigger, he knew he needed to be home. So he actually took a position working with troubled youth. It was kind of like a juvenile detention center, but it was almost like a halfway house for troubled youth who were like coming in and out of the system. Okay. And he would take me up there and introduce me to these older guys, and they would tell me about their lives and with their lives and tell me what was going on, and it made an impression upon me how fortunate I was. Number one, to have a father, because even back then there were times where I grew up, I was very conscious of the fact that my father was oftentimes the only father in our neighborhood, and that's white or black.
Yeah.
You know, so and just listening to that and seeing that, I was always conscious of the fact how blessed I was. So that definitely added perspective from a young age.
What about your mother's creative aspect? How do you think her being a jazz singer and being so creative, how do you think that fostered and guided you on your creative journey?
It did in a couple ways. On the positive aspect, the fact that she was always there for us when I was pushing us to be creative was a positive thing. She was always there. She would give us singing lessons. She would give us lessons as far as diction, how to speak. She was always the first to critique the writings, edit the writings that I would do, things of that nature. So she was always the one, and she made sure to put us to the forefront. So she would be like the choir director for the school. She made sure to put us to the forefront, and it wasn't a nepotism thing, because she knew we had the talent, but she always wanted to make sure we had the opportunity. So she gave us the opportunity to be up front first, and that made us leaders first. That made us examples first. So if any children were jealous or hating, they couldn't hate on the work that we put in, because my mother was making sure that we did that at home. So on the positive aspect, that was one thing. On the not so positive aspect, I got to see parts of the business that were not so positive. There were times when my mother would enter into agreements with people who she thought were friends, and she'd be working on music, and she was the writer, the producer. She put everything together, and other people were trying to stiff her and take, credit for what she did. So I got to see that up close as well. So that kind of turned me off a little bit. I tell you, when I made a decision to step back, I was like, I don't really want to do it. I'm 12 years old. But seeing her battle that and still be triumphant, the fact that she never quit, it was a positive experience.
Because that's what I was gonna say. I was like, at the time, it might have felt a negative, but I think moving forward, now that you're in the industry, it gives you a sense of, because you also often hear of, especially young actresses talk about it. Even Gabrielle Union talked about it. I forgot what movie she did with Heath Ledger, when her first movie, it was a whole bunch of kids, actors her age at the time, and she thought it was all this fun and happy, and she thought that's how the industry was. And so her next movie, and she realizes, everybody's not getting along, everybody's not having fun. We're not hanging out after the scene is done. That's not the kind of reality that it is. That it is a business. The fact that you got that business understanding of it so early, to me would be a benefit, that you don't have that shock and awe later. It's like, oh, I know this, and I can be prepared for it, and counteract it before it does occur. Is that something that you feel now in retrospect?
Oh, absolutely. And what I try to do to circumvent that is I try to make sure that any production that I'm involved in, where it's my production, I try to make sure it's an atmosphere that is ultimately positive, and collaboration is sought, and it's sought out, and it's actually feedback is actually valued. Also, the fact that that I started this collaboration with people that I knew personally and had worked with and knew their work ethic actually helps, so that they understand. They understand it's business, but at the same time, we can mix business with our friendship and make something that's successful. It's not going to be that all the time, but at least if we start with that as a foundation, we know going forward what we can do and what we're capable of.
As well as in that situation, as you said, you already knew their work ethic and their workload, so you already have an expectation.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of the conflict that people have, especially with business, is what they expected, their expectations versus reality, what they're getting. And in that situation, you already knew what was to be expected because you knew them, and then you got that. So
right, absolutely.
That makes it easier in that regard.
Yep, exactly. Association breeds familiarity. So, it's the people that you surround yourself with. And this is something that Will Smith actually said years ago. He said, you are who you associate with. So if you look around at your 5 closest friends and you don't like what you see, you know what you got to do. So I'm in a position where I look around at my 5 closest friends and I like who they are, which means I like the reflection upon me.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's very true. And as you made that transition, because you said there was that period of time where you were talking about that, you had to put the creativeness to the side and you just wanted to live a little bit. What got you back into the creativeness, and when was that?
Well, it never left me. That was the thing. The thing is, it was always there, and it was just something that I utilized as a tool. I didn't really try to utilize it to really do anything with it. So if it was something like, for instance, we were in school and you had to write something, I made sure I put a lot of thought and effort into the writing. I took a creative writing class in high school, and I was always getting high marks for it and things of that nature. So it was always there. It was always kind of like, I believe in a mixture of destiny and free will. So destiny kept telling me, putting me in certain situations, like, hey, this is for you.
Message.
You only get so long. Right. That's right. You only get so long to do this. So really what happened is I was in the Army. And while I was in the Army, just to kind of blow off steam, I was writing a lot of reviews of hip hop albums, like rap albums and things of that nature. So I was writing a lot of reviews, and I was posting them online. And the message boards that I was posting them on were really liking it. They were like, hey, we really like your point of view. People were reaching out to me to write more so that I could put it on their website. And I was saying, okay, that's great. I'll just do this. It was a hobby. It was a nice little hobby. And it got to the point where people were really reaching out to me, like, hey, well, we'll pay you. To review this or to review that. Can you do this by then? Can you have this by then? I said, oh, yeah, sure. And I'd write it, edit it myself, and put it up there. And I said to myself, like, I really could be doing something with it, and it got to the point where it was like, are you going to be, I had to make a decision. Am I going to be satisfied working for other people for the rest of my life? Or am I going to make the attempt to work for myself and utilize my talent?
Be that 2%.
So I decided, hey, looks like my father, no one's going to believe in you unless you believe in yourself. So I had to really dig deep and believe in myself to go out there and really do it.
I just want to touch on, because the Stay Woke podcast, as well as the TheSonicBreakdown.com, started as a result of music and the passion for music. And it seems like you share that same passion. And I got that's definitely that inkling from Blue Collar Hustle. When did you fall in love with hip hop?
I fell in love with hip hop. Okay, I first fell in love with hip hop when I was about 10 or 11 years old. And no, maybe a little bit before that. I would say 8. When I first saw the movie House Party, me and my dad sat down and we watched the movie House Party, and I was blown away. And I thought Kid and Play were the greatest rappers of all time, and I wanted to be just like them. And I would watch House Party 1, 2, and 3 in class, like incessantly, like all day, every day. And I would make my brothers and sisters watch it with me. And they're like, "Why are we watching this?" I'm like, "You guys don't understand. This is important."
You don't get it. You don't see
coming
it.
up. Right, you don't get it, and then coming up, so it was like Kid and Play, and then of course you had Will Smith, the Fresh Prince, and coming from the household that I came from, they were the only 2 rappers we could listen to in the house because, they were clean. But then when I was going to school, my friends were like, Kid and Play, Will Smith, no, we don't know, bro. Like, they're like, no, we're gonna put you on some of this Snoop, we're gonna put you on some of this Dre, some of this Nas, some of this Jay, some of this DMX. So my friends at school, hit me to game. And so it was kind of like a secret, it was kind of like a secret identity. At home, it was like Will Smith getting jiggy with it. But at school, it was like, it was written. It was like, it's dark and hell is hot, So I got different perspectives, So that's when I really fell in love with hip hop and music in general, because it was expression. It was poetic. And from a writing aspect, a lot of it's just genius.
Yeah.
So that's really when I fell in love with music and hip hop. And, it goes way back with my father playing his old 45, 32. He had the old school record player. He had Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers. We were listening to Frankie Lyman before the movie even came out. I knew who Frankie Lyman was.
Yeah.
Of course, we were listening. My father had the old, the first Jackson 5 singles when they were on Steel Town Records.
Yeah.
Before they were signed to Motown.
Hey, you should hold on to those.
I got them. Yeah, I still got them. I got some of those records. Yeah. So all of those, all that, the Stevie Wonder, all of that was just mixed, and then that mixed with my mother's appreciation for jazz. Miles Davis and Nina Simone and Billie Holiday. So just coming up in that household, I got the full spectrum of music. I got the full spectrum of really of Black music. Yeah. Coming up in my household. So it was great.
And I think those that appreciate jazz have a different perspective on their appreciation for hip hop. Just the sounds that boom bap rap and golden era of rap has. I think I think it just adds to a different level of appreciation. Not that if you don't like jazz that you can't appreciate hip hop, but I just think it adds to the quality that you might not get if you don't appreciate jazz as much, because it's so entangled and tied to hip hop.
Absolutely. That's where, all Black music is really just an evolution of something that came before it. So,
Exactly.
You had jazz, and then you had funk, and then hip hop came on the back of funk and jazz.
Mm-hmm.
So the first break beats were funk beats, were James Brown beats.
Yeah.
And James Brown had that old Southern, hey, watch ya. You know what I'm saying? So what it really comes down to again is like, you can appreciate both because it all comes from the same source.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So now taking all of this creative energy, all that you've fostered through your life, as well as this musical knowledge that you have, plus your details and level of writing that you've been exploring and kind of honing in, even without you noticing that you're honing it in. Basically, you've been doing that your whole life. As you said, you've been writing your whole life. Then you did the reviews. That all that time, in my eyes, I see it as you honing your craft for Blue Collar Hustle, and then Blue Collar Hustles, and then it just expands and it's a snowball effect. Take us to the point of the conception of Blue Collar Hustle.
Yeah, absolutely. And really what you just said is really true in so many ways. So what happened was I was working as a manager at Best Buy. Best Buy was actually my first job when I was 19 years old. So I was 19, I started working at Best Buy, yeah. And I worked there for a couple of years, and it was really great. It was really good. I loved it. And then the recession hit in 2009. And when the recession hit, I could see the writing on the wall. So that's when I actually joined the Army. And then when I came back out, I actually went right back to working at Best Buy. So I was a manager at Best Buy, and I had just got promoted to assistant manager. And there's a small city here in Georgia called Noonan, Georgia. So I was promoted down there. And I met Quentin Williams, who stars in the series with me as Quan Banneker. I met Roberto Cruz, who stars in the series as Jose Torres.
Okay.
And I already knew Howard Woodburn, who stars in the series as Anthony Lee. He actually worked with me at the previous Best Buy, and I took him. I was like, look, you're coming with me. When I get promoted, you're coming with me. I don't care how much I got to pay you. You're coming with me.
Similar to what Johnny did to Anthony.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. That's correct.
Gotcha.
Light imitates art. Right.
Gotcha.
So what happened was when I met Quentin, what I liked about him off the first lot was he was a really charming guy. He was great with customers, and he was very, very, very dependable. If I needed him to come in, if he wasn't on the schedule, I said, hey man, I need you in like an hour. Can you get here? I got you. He was always coming in very dependable, great with customers, just all around great spirit. He's the type of guy that you get around, and even if you're having a bad day, you automatically feel good about yourself.
That's good. Is it always good to have somebody like that around in your circle?
Exactly. So I respected him as an employee, but what happened was he was always telling me, he's like, hey, I rap too. And what you got to understand about here in Atlanta is everybody's a rapper in Atlanta. Everybody has a mixtape, or everybody has a song they're working on, or everybody has some type of rap dreams. So you get kind of turned off to the whole, hey, listen to my mixtape type, attitude, because you get it all day, every day.
Yeah.
So, he was like, hey, I got some songs, I got the splash drive. He was reading some of my reviews as well, and he was like, hey, I really respect your opinion on hip hop. Can you just give it a listen? I think you'll really like it. And I said, just keep his spirits up. I was like, yeah, man, sure, I got you, man. Everybody got to have a dream. And, in the back of my head, I'm like, I'm never going to listen to this. But one night I went home, and, I was home by myself, and I just on a whim, I was like, let me just give it a try, And so I put it in my computer and started listening. And I was on one song, and then before I knew it, I was on another song, and before I knew it, I was on another song. I said, this is incredible. So this is really good. His rhymes are fresh. He had good beats. His stuff was mastered properly. It was really good. So I got kind of inspired by that, and I went to him and said, hey, you're really good. And then me, him, and Roberto, we call him Sosa, we got together, and, we were asking him, like, who's managing you? What are you doing with the music? How you put it out? He was like, I'm just doing it all by myself. And so we said, hey, look, we're going to help you. We're going to help you do this. And so the original plan was for us to help him get shows, put the album out, for me to write reviews for him and write his press releases and really focus on, getting his music to as many ears as possible. And what happened was a lot of stuff that we were going through in life as we started hanging out more and going to shows and trying to put them on. I said, this would be a really good TV show because of the simple fact that as a lover of the medium, I love entertainment, movies, TV. Growing up, there wasn't a lot of things that I saw that I was proud of that I could say Black people were in, honestly.
Yeah.
Especially during that time. I can count on, and even to this day, I can count on maybe 5 fingers the amount of shows that I watched with predominantly, Black actors or people of color that I feel like is representative of us truly.
Yeah. We're now getting a somewhat of a resurgence. Resurgence of that. We had a little bit of it, with the Cosby, Different World, that time period, and then Fresh Prince, and then it just it just went like
Died.
black. It like died, and then now we're starting to get that back with Atlanta, Blackish, Insecure, Grownish,
Insecure.
you know, things of that nature. So I definitely agree, and I definitely see. I definitely felt the same way as you did about that lack of space in media for something that represents and that we can truly relate to, almost in all aspects. You know. This Stay Woke podcast episode is sponsored by Triple Apex. At Triple Apex, they know the importance of a healthy, active, and safe sex life for women, and living in an environment where an understanding, knowledge, and respect of women's sexuality is essential for this. Visit tripleapexforwomen.com to check out their products. Again, that is tripleapexforwomen.com, or just click the link in the description below.
Right, exactly. And so I said there's a dearth of just, number one, there's a dearth of young Black millennials that are being portrayed as working class Black millennials. You know, we have stories that are interesting. We have stories that are entertaining. We have stories that can touch the world that I feel like aren't being spoken on. Because even, you know, at that time, because this is going on 2 years almost. So at the time, Atlanta was just coming out. Atlanta hadn't come out yet when I started writing the show, but you heard about it. You knew it was coming, but it's from one perspective. And then Insecure was just coming out, and it was from, you know, another perspective. But I didn't really see the perspective as far as young millennials in the workplace.
Yeah.
So I said, there's an opportunity.
Yeah, that's true, because both of those shows are in different spaces. Well, Atlanta's closer, but it's like you said, it's still not the workspace. It doesn't have that dynamic that I think that's what Blue Collar Hustle, another dynamic that we haven't seen that you captured in that.
Right. Thank you. And so what I wanted to do was it just hit me one day. I said, you know what? I said, I know what I'm going to do. I said, this is what I'm going to do. I said, I'm going to create a web series. I said, I'm going to use Quentin's music as the soundtrack to the web series, and I'm going to take his songs, his lyrics, and use that as the basis for the show. Because what drew me to him as a rapper was he was speaking on things that I could relate to. So I said, this is going to help give him a bigger platform. So what I did was one night, and I stayed up till like maybe 2 a.m., I wrote the series outline. And I said, this is where the characters go from point A to point B. So I wrote the series outline, came up with all the characters. I wrote the first draft of the first script. Okay. And the next day, I called all of them. We were all at work, and I said, hey, look, all you guys come to my house after work. I got something to show y'all. And I know what we're going to do next. Because we were at first, the plan was to shoot videos. The plan was to shoot music videos for Quentin. You know, his rap name is Kubrick. The plan was to shoot videos and put them out on YouTube. So it came to the house, and I said, look, instead of spending money on videos, I said, we're going to make an entire web series, and this is going to be, quote unquote, our video. We'll make an entire web series, and what'll happen is I'm going to title each episode title is going to be based on one of your song titles. And then the concept, I'm going to take your concepts and write a whole script, and we're going to do it like that. And from the jump, everybody's like, okay, we're down. They're like, we're down. And because they trusted me, because, like, again, as their manager, as their leader, you know, I hadn't steered them wrong at work. So they were like, okay, if you say we're going to do this, we're going to do this, but you just have to come through. I said, okay. So I showed them the outline. They saw everything that I was going for it. And I showed them the first script, and they saw that, and they said, okay, we're down. So really what it did was it came down to me just really teaching myself how to build a production business, really, honestly. Yeah. So after I wrote that, I was like, now how are you going to bring it to screen? So what happened was I went on Craigslist and I looked up, I said, Black directors in Atlanta, because I wanted the person who I partnered with to be a person of color so they could understand where I was coming from. And I found Jeffrey Henderson, who has been running his own film production company, I believe, for like 10 or 11 years. He's done a lot of independent movies, his own productions and things of that nature. He had never done a web series before. I reached out to him. I said, look, I have this concept. I'll send you the script. I just need to know as far as how much money and how many days of shooting we're talking about, because we're all working, you know, so it's not like we can just drop everything like, hey, yeah, we're going to go be stars now and shoot the show. Yeah. No, we had to come like with a whole schedule and everything. So he said, okay. So he got that to me about 3-4 days later. He said, listen, we can do it in this amount of days. And I really like the concept. So we're going to do it for this amount of money. Can you do that? And he was like, I really enjoy the concept. He said, so I'm going to waive certain fees that he would charge other people. He waived those just because he believed in the project. And really, for a first-time writer and for a first-time actors, that's a big deal for him to place that amount of faith. You know, he didn't know me from Adam.
Yeah.
You know, we just spoke on the phone a couple times before we even met in person, and we spoke over email. So for him to do that, just let me know, again, this is destiny. So what I did was I took $2,000 from my own personal savings, and I said, we're going to do this. And we did it. That's how it really started. Once we locked it in with Jeffrey, I knew we were going to do it, and that's when we started rehearsing.
And I do want to say one thing, too, of what you said is, I would say that him accepting and being so forward and so committed to the project without even meeting you just through email, it speaks to your level of writing to me, because he felt that strong based off the words someone he never met, never knew, can actually even deliver on it. But that, again, like I said, to me, that shows the strength of the words. It'd be
Thank you.
It kind of reminds me of, because we're doing this thing on Rapture, how Nas didn't really know much about Dave East.
Dave East, right?
Yeah.
Yep, I saw that episode.
Yeah, exactly. So, but what he heard of Dave East, the lines that he heard, he was like, he can tell just off that alone. He's like, he's attentive to his craft, and that I respect.
Right.
So I think it's kind of a similar scenario with Jeffrey. That's the way that I'm reading it based off of the situation.
Thank you. Yeah, very much so. And the feeling was mutual. Just seeing his work and seeing the amount of attention to detail that he put into his craft. You know, the feeling was mutual, or I wouldn't have reached out to him in the first place. You know, I do a lot of research before I get in, you know, figuratively speaking, before I get into bed with somebody.
Yeah, same here.
And, you know, I watched a lot of his stuff and a lot of his shorts and saw his work ethic and read a lot of reviews about him. And, you know, really at that time, it was really just a match made in heaven, you know, just being able to link up with him and work with him and him being so passionate about the series as he was. Because really what it was a big confidence booster to me, and not just to me, but to us as a cast and crew.
Was anybody of the cast professionally trained actors beforehand?
Nobody except for my sister Shawnee, who had continued to take acting classes after we were kids. So we had done a little bit of acting classes, but again, we're talking about 12, 13 here.
Yeah.
We're not talking about, you know, overall, but she continued to take acting classes, and she actually continued to be in commercials, and she was in stage production. She was doing a lot of stage work locally here in Atlanta. So she had been classically trained, and then the actress who plays my wife on the show, Tijuana Agnew, is a professional actress as well. So they were the only two that were professionals. All the males were brand new.
Okay. And
they had never done it before.
How do you think Jeffrey's trust in you guys added to that factor of being able to come through and being more relaxed and confident in your skills as actors?
Well, first and foremost, it allowed us to grow as actors, because what happened was I knew that we were all first-time actors. I knew that this was going to be a very, very big undertaking. So the first thing I tried to do was be realistic, which is what I mean by that is I based a lot of the characterization on the actual personalities of the people that I knew, and a lot of the situations we had been through. It wasn't so foreign. So I would say like each character is maybe, I would say 60% is based on us. You know, there's some fictionalization, there's some exaggeration there, but a good 60% is based on situations that we've been through and who we are as people. So that way you feel comfortable within yourself. So you can say, okay, this is not so foreign to me. And then what happened was that was about the first 2 episodes. And then episode 3 through 6, as I began to see that we were getting better and better, that's when I could allow them to stretch and grow as actors. So that was on me at the beginning to make sure that everybody could be as comfortable as they possibly could doing something that they had never done before. And then what Jeffrey did was he allowed us to be us. So he allowed me to take the charge that I needed to take in order for the production to come together the way it was supposed to. And what he did was he made suggestions along the way that allowed us to really just grow. So he would say things like, hey, Alonge, maybe you should say it like this. Or, you know, hey, Quentin, maybe you should say it like that. Or maybe we should frame it like this. Or maybe we should frame it like that. You know, he was always making suggestions. And then if I said, well, that's not going to be true to the character, so I wrote it like this, he was like, okay, I understand. Let's try it both ways, and then we'll see which way works. So I said, okay, cool. So we always tried both ways, and then sometimes he was right, and sometimes I was right. But it was just that collaborative spirit that he had that allowed us to work through the growing pains and things of that nature and still support us, that made us more confident, and it made the production better.
And I think that what you said, I think that was a very poignant step by you by taking characteristics of the actors already and infusing that into the script to, as you said, to give them something to hold on to, something to pull that they already have a grasp and understanding of, instead of trying to become a whole different person off jump. I think that's a great and wonderful way, especially for young actors.
What I really love about, the cast is that, they trusted me. They trusted me through all the ups and downs that we went through. They trusted me, and they allowed me to do it. They allowed me to process the vision and see the vision through, and they were with me 100% of the way. There were little hiccups now and then. Some people say, hey, Alonge, maybe we should do it like this, or hey, Alonge, we should do it like that. But the fact of the matter is that I tried to plan it out so meticulously so that when we got to the point where we could spread our wings, that we did so and the audience could spread the wings with us.
I think that part of the beauty of this series, of course the writing, but also the topics that you address, that's what makes it resonate. That's what made it resonate so well with me, is you tackle a myriad of topics that in most media aspects you don't necessarily see them addressing them. You're starting to see that again, like we mentioned earlier, a little bit more, like with Blackish and things like that. But even they have their own parameters that they can't even bypass. As that news article that came out about that Blackish couldn't do the protest.
Right, they couldn't do the protest, which I don't want to spoil anything for season 2, but let's just say there's nobody that's going to tell me what I can't do.
And that's why, like I said, a lot of the topics that you addressed, like police brutality, materialism, systemic and institutional racism, the minimalization of Black women, interracial dating, all of those can be difficult subjects to broach, can often be broached in ways that are one-sided. I felt like you tried to bring a nice balance to the topics, even if they weren't agreeing with your or the main character Johnny's perspective, but they were still present. And I felt that was, I guess, the most evident for me that I noticed it was the interracial dating episode. Is as you were saying all the things of why you think Black men should be dating Black women, and then you were still bringing up examples, the script, the story was still bringing up examples of, well, what about this? What about that? Which are conversations that people are having. And I think that was important. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first conceived of the show, I wanted to talk about these things. These are things that I wasn't seeing being talked about, or if they were being talked about, it was kind of it was doing it in a way that I felt was disingenuous. It wasn't, it's kind of cookie cutter. So again, we touched upon the Blackish thing, but they weren't allowed to do certain things. If I was going to put my money into this production, it was going to be an Alonge Hawes series. Then Alonge Hawes was going to talk about what Alonge Hawes wanted to talk about. And these are things that I feel like are very important that need to be talked about in the Black community. Really the series itself is a love letter to the entire Black community. So these are based off conversations that I have had with other Black men, Black women, Black children, things of that nature. And I just wanted to do it in a way where Black people are not a monolith. So we're all going to have different, opinions. We're all raised differently. We have different opinions. But what my father taught me was, if you are Black, then some way you can find common ground. So just because I may not date interracially and you do date interracially, it doesn't mean that you're still not a Black person and you still don't go through things that Black people go through. You fall in love with who you fall in love with at the end of the day. And we just hope that the people that you fall in love with isn't because we hope you're not falling in love because you're to the exclusion of Black women or to the exclusion of Black men. It's just because you fell in love with that person. Absolutely, I'm all for that. And there's an element. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and I think that to me it's because you can get, especially addressing these topics, you can get to a point where if you don't keep it balanced or you make it one-sided, it becomes preachy. And
preachy, right? You're standing on a soapbox.
Exactly, and I didn't get that from any of the topics that you addressed. I didn't get that it was preachy. I got it was like, okay, that's your opinion, that's his opinion, that's his opinion. Now let's address why we have these opinions, and that I think is the most important thing that we need to have as people, is being open and able to have the dialogue, to learn more and to question more the whys behind it. Why, like you said, it's not that you're doing it. If you want to interracial dating, fine, do that. But why are you? What is the reason behind you doing that. Or a friend of mine said he talked to a guy and he was saying, a black man saying he specifically does not date black women. Like, those are the questions. That's why. Why?
Right, exactly. Yeah, what made you, first of all, what set of circumstances did you come up under that made you have that sort of what do you want to say it?
That ideology, just period.
Yeah, the ideology. Right. That's right. That sort of feeling towards, a set of women who look just like you and go through the same thing that you go through. And I've been fascinated by the fact that because I grew up in a very pro-black household. Mm-hmm. I grew up with a father who was preaching to me the values of, black women, black men, black family since I was 5 years old. There were certain movies that my father had me watching when I was like 5, 10 years old that probably other black kids weren't watching at that time, and not just movies, but things that he was teaching me, books that he made me read. So I grew up with the mindset, that, I was always going to be with a black woman, and I was always going to, uphold the black community as the best that I could. Not saying, I'm not perfect, but in the best way that I could, but there are other people who didn't grow up with those same experiences. That does not mean that they are quote unquote bad black people or coons or anything like that. It just means they grew up under a different set of circumstances. And I want to attempt to understand that set of circumstances so that we can find common ground, because we can't get anywhere if we don't get there together. Exactly. No one person is going to get there by themselves. So that conversation in episode 4 was really born of, number one, I wanted to show respect and admiration for black women, because I feel like throughout my entire life, anywhere that I got was because of black women. It was because some black woman took me under her wing and educated me, or some black woman believed in me and pushed me, or some black woman loved me and nurtured me. And where I am today is because of black women. I give a lot of respect and a lot of love for my father, because he is the quintessential black man that I grew up with. He's my first hero. But black women have always been there for me. My mother, my sister, women that I've dated, mentors that I've had have all been black women. So the first thing I wanted to do was show respect for black women. And the second thing I wanted to do was explore, why there seems to be a disconnect between, or I would say a certain disconnect, not an all disconnect, not an all encompassing, but a certain disconnect between black men and black women, and see how I can, bridge the gap in that particular episode and in the series itself.
So yeah, I think you did a very good job of expressing those opinions and those ideas, and expressing the motive behind it. It's not that I'm saying I'm better or you're worse or whatever. It's not even that. It's I want a better understanding, like you said, so we can come to a place of common ground. And first thing I do want to mention, because I have this in my notes, I think Anthony was the standout to me in the series. Just, he didn't have that many lines.
Anthony. Yeah. Anthony, I'm gonna tell Howard that you're gonna blow up his head more than it already is. He's a super cocky, arrogant. No, I'm just playing. He's one of my best friends. No. I love him, man.
Yo,
I love him.
He was like the little, like I said, he didn't have that many scenes, but there's little
quips.
Yeah, little facial quips, little facial micro expressions that you're like that just had me dying, and that I just felt added nice levity to some of the heavier situations. But I think everybody did an excellent job. Shani as well. I think she did a great job of portraying that role. And one thing I did want to mention about Shani's role is that role can be played so many ways, and it can give off the impression of the angry black women, or all the stereotypes that they associate with black women. That's not what I got. I felt it's like she was a real encompassing black woman, not the generalized stereotypes that we normally see in media.
Thank you.
And the same thing with I forgot the character's name, but the actress that played your wife, I think she did a great job as well as that.
Tijuana as Anaya. Yes, Tijuana Agnew. That's her real name. Is she plays Anaya Bassett on the series.
Yeah, I think she did a great job as well of that feeling of warmth that you get from black women, or at least that I feel from black women. I felt like she encompassed that so perfectly, especially towards the final episodes. I think it's like 4, 5, and 6. I think towards that end. I think actually the last episode, I just felt that warmth from her, and it felt, and that's where I was talking about the chemistry between you and her, especially towards, I think, like I said, I think it's 5 and 6 maybe, but at definitely 6, that chemistry felt real. It felt like you guys were a family. It felt like that love was there. And I think that's what adds to great shows. That's why the Cosbys, that's why we love Claire Huxtable. Like, Claire Huxtable was real. I thought her and Bill were married. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that chemistry.
Right, exactly.
And even when I found out that they weren't, in my head, they still married. Like, so.
Right, exactly. They'll always be Cliff and Claire. Yeah, exactly.
So that I feel like that the chemistry was building and getting to that point at the end of this series. So I just wanted to applaud you for that, because that's not easy to attain. But that comes through good acting as well as very good writing.
Thank you. Yeah, that was heaven sent. Both of them are heaven sent. Honestly, my sister Shani, she's been with me all my life, supporting me and been in my corner. And I'll give you a little tidbit. So, and this is just how kind of things change in production. So originally, when I was crafting the series, the character of Asha was only supposed to be in 2 episodes. She was supposed to be a reoccurring guest. She wasn't supposed to be part of the main cast.
Oh.
And that's because when I wrote the part for my sister. I didn't know if she was gonna want the part. I didn't know if she was gonna be busy or not. So like I said, she was actually doing her acting thing. She was, in theater, and she was in, different things. She was doing all that things. So I was like, well, she doesn't want to do it. I was like, she'll throw me a bone and listen to 2 episodes.
You didn't know she could commit to the time.
Yeah, I didn't know. I honestly didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know if she'd laugh in my face or what, because I hadn't done any actual serious writing in years. So when I came to her with the script and the outline, I was like, hey, look, I got this character for you. Can you help me out? She looked at it and she said, yeah, why only in 2 episodes? And I was like, well, I thought TV. She said, oh, no. She said, no. She said, I'm doing this. So I said, okay, got you. So then she became, actually part of the main cast. I said, I was actually relieved, because I wanted more than one woman in the show, mm-hmm. even though the show is, it's the 4 main male protagonists. Mm-hmm. I didn't want it to be, just the black man show. I did want to show, black women and have stories for black women and have situations that were geared towards, black women and different interactions. So that was really great, her, coming to my rescue and being the great sister and saying, I really want to be a part of this. So that was really good. And then with Tijuana, she was actually the last character that was actually cast. Everybody else I knew. When I wrote Tijuana, when I wrote the character of Anaya, I knew I needed someone, like you said, that was very warm, but also had a sense of self-determination about them. Yeah. So that she could function as a character without being tethered to a Johnny. I wanted her to, have her own, her own destiny.
Especially, again, I keep on going back to this scene because I just feel it was so powerful. But it's that scene when as the episode 6, is when she's reading the lines to herself.
Oh yeah, that's that episode 4.
Oh, episode 4. When she's reading the lines to herself, and it's a solo scene, but the great thing about that scene was, one, you felt the strength of her and the confidence of her, but again, it didn't feel cockiness, and the power that that I feel from black women. You felt that from her, but still the loving nature and quality of her and the warmth that I was talking about as well. But again, she's in a scene that you said this series is with 4 male roles, or the lead four leads in essence, male leads. But she's in a scene all by herself, and you don't feel like she needs them. You don't feel like she
absolutely.
You don't feel like she needs a man in that scene at all. Like, it passes the Bechdel test, and like I just felt, like I said, in that scene, it's a small scene, but it says so much about the series to me.
Thank you. Yeah, when I wrote that monologue, that was one of the things that was in my head right from the beginning. So I knew episode 4 was written in my head before it was even written on paper. So I knew with that episode is titled Goddess, I knew what I wanted to do going in and writing it. I wrote that episode super quick because I went in with the plan, like, this is what I'm going to do. This is the plan. This is what I want to talk about. This is how I want it to begin, middle, and end, everything. So just the way Tijuana brought it to life was incredible. It was incredible. And, like I said, we met her really at the last minute. I was looking to cast, and I was trying to find different actresses, and I couldn't find anybody. And then Jeffrey introduced me to her. And that was actually his idea to bring Tijuana on to play Anaya. And so we met and we talked and we had a great conversation, and she was very excited. And I said, hey, do you want to do this role? And she said, absolutely. She was down from the moment, that she met me, honestly. So it was really good. And when we were doing our rehearsals, our table reads and things of that nature, it automatically, you felt it. You just feel it with somebody.
Yeah.
It felt real, which was phenomenal. Because I was like, oh God, please let us, have some type of chemistry. Because we're not together in real life or anything like that. But it felt real. And so thank you, Tijuana. When you listen to this, thank you very much. I'm very appreciative. You really brought the series to life in a whole new, interesting dynamic with your interpretation of the character.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I think the series is a very, very good series. Like I said, it addresses so many different topics and issues and philosophies that the Black community goes through. But like you said, we're not a monolith, so it expresses the vast variety of perspectives that we all have regarding it, and it allows you to think and to push and have those discussions and those dialogues amongst your friends and the people that you actually interact with. So I think that helps propel society moving forward. And for those out there, you need to go see Blue Collar Hustle, the series on YouTube. Season 2 is going to be coming out in this fall. What would you say people should be looking forward moving into season 2?
With season 2, we're really gonna move into, I want to say, a more serious form of storytelling. I'm gonna say it's based on, really, when I sat down and thought about season 2, I thought about what I really wanted to talk about and what I wanted to explore. And what I really want to explore is I want to explore the effects of post-traumatic slave syndrome in modern day millennials. Post-traumatic slave syndrome is defined by Dr. Joy DeGrasse. It's described as a set of behaviors or associations, or actions associated with, multi-generational trauma experienced by African Americans as a result of slavery. And the way I interpret that is, we look at, if we take hip hop, for example, or music in general, and we look at the great empires of hip hop or music, none of them stay together. Be it, Motown, Jackson 5, Bad Boy Records, Fellow Records, all of those, those great, Black empires that were started by, Black people when they were Black companies, they never stay together. They always break up. So when you look at, Johnny and Jose and Quan and Anthony and see how close and tight-knit they are as Black men, as a company, and trying to push Quan's music career, what could break them up, or what could threaten to break them up? I wanted to explore that. I wanted to explore really what it means to be Black in modern day society and how hard it is to have a goal and really, really see the goal through. It's very, very hard because there are so many external forces that are trying to tear you down and break you down. How do you
divide and conquer?
That? Yeah, exactly. Divide and conquer. So how do you stay together?
Yeah.
It's very, very, very hard to do that. So that's one of the things that I wanted to explore. Especially,
like you said, with those external forces pushing you, and it can be in a variety of ways of, financially. I'll pay you more if you come with me instead of stay with them, or stardom. You can rise to this level of famedom or popularity if you go this route instead of the slower route with your group. There's a myriad of pressures that you're talking about that you can explore, and that gives you a vast amount of content to be able to create through that. Well, actually, I want to go back to season 1 a little bit, and I want to talk about just the capturing of the location, especially in certain scenes. I was like, "Damn, I feel like I'm right back in Atlanta." Like I was like,
right.
You feel that feel of being in the South and Atlanta. What do you think about that adds to the character of the series? How is that going to change or stay the same moving forward in season 2?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So when I conceptualized the series, I wanted Atlanta/Stone Mountain to really be the 7th character. Atlanta is the 7th main character of the series. And I know that kind of sounds cliche, but it's true. Because so many of the experiences that I've had, both positive and negative, that make up the show and make up who I am as a person, happened here. Like I said, I was raised in Lansing until about 14, but when I got here in Atlanta is really when I had my coming of age and my coming of culture, as a Black man. And, Stone Mountain, in the history of Stone Mountain, really, it's a really grotesque, ugly history. We are living under a mountain that is basically a memorial to slavery, racism, and the subjugation of Black people. But today, Stone Mountain is 70% Black. So I felt the beauty of that, honestly, is the fact that Black people we came to a place that was built to subjugate us, and we turned it into a place that celebrates us. No matter what that mountain says, when you come to Stone Mountain, you see Black working class men, women, children, families. It's a beautiful thing. So I wanted to show that. So, in the series, like in the intro, you see the high school I went to, Reed in high school. You see different places. I specifically told Jeffrey, I want to film these places. I want to show Stone Mountain. I want to show Atlanta. I want to show these places that they're going to, that they're eating at, that they're working at, that they're living at, dating, whatever. I want to show these places because they're important. I feel like the audience is going to understand how important that they are. And it also makes it easier for us as actors to convey that sense, of home, because this is where we are. So that was really, really important. And then going into season 2, we're actually going to do more of that in season 2. We're actually going to have more locations.
Okay.
We're going to have more staples of Atlanta. You'll see different places that you may not know are historical landmarks in Atlanta and that are important, to Black history in Atlanta. So that's what I'll say as far as season 2. We're actually going to expand more on the world building of Atlanta and Stone Mountain.
First of all, if you're listening to this, spoilers, you should have watched the series. So go pause now, pause right now, go finish watching the series. It's on YouTube. And then come back and finish. So for those, again, who have seen it, you already know that the season 1 finale ends with Sosa or Jose about to press send and put the music out to the world.
Upload the album, right.
Now, I want to transition that into real world. What was the feeling for you? Because the series has gotten a lot of accolades. A lot of people are watching, listening, and loving it. What was that feeling for you? Now that it is out, now that something you did create is in the world and it's out there for people to consume.
It feels great, honestly. It feels incredible. This is just something that we put our blood, sweat, and tears into, and a lot of time and effort, finances that we put into is really just being embraced. And like I said, really the show, honestly, I really wanted to be humble about it. And I said, look, if Black people like this, if only a few Black people like this, then I will have done something. That will be my contribution. To the Black community. It was really, like I said, the show is really a love letter to the Black community and Black millennials, in general. So it's for them. And the fact that it was embraced by the Black community so far, to me, means everything. And as far as like the accolades, I don't write episodes thinking about the awards that I'm going to win. We don't go into rehearsals thinking about, this episode's going to be the one, or anything like that. So we don't go into the accolades, but the accolades do help. I'll say that, just because of the fact that, it's recognition. Mm-hmm. It's recognition for all the hard work you put in, and it helps put you out there on a bigger platform. So, just like I said, all the accolades and the awards we've gotten, it's been a beautiful thing, and we really love the recognition, and we're very, very thankful. All of us are. But like I said, my humble approach to this is I just want to make something that Black people can be proud of. When you watch the show, I want you to look at it and say, I'm proud to watch the show, and I'm proud to support it because you see 6 Black people living their lives and trying to be better people. I didn't want to create a show that was devoid of conflict because then it's not interesting. But the conflict that I do put in there, I wanted to be for a specific reason. And I always wanted to make it a moment that somebody could say, I've been through that and I overcame it. Or I've been through that and I made that choice. Or I've been through that and I've seen, that happen. I always wanted to put it in a perspective where you can overcome.
And I felt definitely that was accomplished in the series from my perspective. It felt very real, very realistic. It's not going to always be roses and lottery winners. There's going to be some trials and tribulations. There's going to be some downsides. Right. As Q, you got that baby mama drama.
Right. Right.
So
we'll talk about that in season 2.
Oh,
we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that.
I wonder if we're gonna actually get to meet baby mama.
Keep watching.
See, Japanese. But there was that just made me think of. But the other thing I did think about, I also thought the direction of the series was great. We talked about that scene with your TV wife. I thought that was amazing. As well as they did it a couple of times, but the scenes where it's setting it up, making you think that it's going to be something else, and it's going to be something different. The scene of Q playing hide and seek with his daughter. I thought that scene was just it was magic.
People love that scene. So just a funny thing. when we were shooting that scene, and when I wrote, that's actually one of my favorite scenes that I've written. Period. Just because, from like you said, from that standpoint, it was great, and Jeffrey really made it come alive. But the one funny thing is when we were shooting that scene, at the very beginning, Quan, he's sweating, I'm sweating profusely, and really that was water that we were spraying. And Sosa, who plays Jose, was in the background in between takes. He was spraying him. Put some more water on him. Put some more water on him. Put some more water. So he was like spraying him. So it's like pouring off of his face. Yeah. So that's a really, really good scene. Yeah. I enjoyed that scene as well too. Yeah. That was actually that was a fun shoot. Very fun.
Yeah. That scene. But again, those who haven't seen it, go watch the series. But it has
and that's his real daughter. That's Quentin's real daughter.
Oh wow. Okay.
And that real daughter.
That scene made me think of Trapped in the Closet. I was like, what's about to go on?
Oh, right. Right, exactly.
I was like, oh. And then the other thing, when you started talking about that Jose was spraying him with a spray bottle, it made me think of the Key and Peele skit where he's sweating profusely and they just keep on asking him questions.
Right.
And just sweating more. But yeah, I think it was very well directed, and again, very well written. I'm very excited to see what's going to happen in season 2, especially now that I might get to find out Q's baby mama, because based on those conversations, I'm interested to see what this is going to be like.
So with the baby mother there, it's going to be interesting. It's not going to be, so again, it's not going to be what you think.
Exactly, and
is what I'm going to say.
And that's, to me, that's one of the other great aspects of the series is, for me, TV can get very predictable, especially shows nowadays. It's very easy to predict what's going to happen, why it's going to happen, things of that nature. And the ones that really, really stick with me are the ones that keep me guessing, the ones that have that element of surprise or that element of unexpected. And I got that with this series, especially like you said, this was a series that was trying to carve out a niche that isn't as occupied as it should be.
Absolutely. Yep. And thank you very much for watching this show and supporting us. Because, like I said, man, we everybody who supports us, man, we hold in very high regard.
What I'll say is, because to wrap this up, I want to say, first of all, I want to say thank you again for doing the interview and just taking the time and being the creator that you are in writing the series. I also want to thank you for because with everything, it takes sacrifice. So in order to write that, I know you had to sacrifice time, money, friendships, relationships. Anytime you create something like that, you have to. And so from a consumer, from somebody that watched it, I appreciate the time that you dedicated for it, because again, I know it's not easy, as well as to the actors as well that's doing it. And definitely interested and excited to see what's going to happen in season 2. I do want to also preface or say that for season 2, everybody who's listening, please come back and listen to another Stay Woke podcast, because we're going to have some more interviews with some of the cast prior to season 2. So definitely check that out.
Again, you can catch the series on YouTube, Blue Collar Hustle. We're also on Fika TV. It's free to watch the show on Fika TV. We're also on Quelly TV as well. Quelly TV is a Black-owned Netflix-style curating channel that you can go on and you can watch the series as well. So shout out to Quelly TV. CEO and founder of Quelly TV is actually doing really, really big things right now. So shout out to her. Cool. And then if you want to hit us up on social media, on Instagram, it's BCH_web series. And that's the same on Twitter. And then on Facebook, we're Blue Collar Hustle. So again, if you want to hit us up, if you have any questions or any inquiries, feel free. So thank you. Thank you, everybody.
And no problem. And all of that information, so those links will be in the description below. So if you don't have a pen, you don't have your phone to write it down, well, you're listening to this, so you should be on something. But you can just click on that link, and it will take you directly to the social media pages, as well as to the YouTube account, so you can watch the series there as well. And then definitely follow us on social media, TheSonicBreakdown.com or Stay Woke Podcast with D-Ray, and we'll have updates about when season 2 will be dropping, as well as the interviews that we'll be having with the cast of Blue Collar Hustle. So again, I want to say thank you and keep doing the great work that you're doing. You know our motto: live, listen to some great music, and for this podcast, watch some great web series, and love more. And we out.
Love more, absolutely.